Hey guys, it's Judy from Nutrition with Judy. Alright, so I am very excited to have Ancestral Health Guy with me this week. We are going to talk all things gut health. We're going to talk about how he healed his anxiety as well as panic attacks from a carnivore diet. I look forward to you guys listening to this. This one was a special one for me because we both create a lot of infographics for Instagram and a lot of people share information. And so, it was really nice to talk to somebody that understands the level of work that it requires. All right, so one thing I do want to bring up with you guys is that Sonny and I talk about how to detox the body and how to heal gut health and how he recommends or believes that you need some sort of like antifungal or some way to help remove toxins from the body. I do personally believe that you are able to remove toxins from the body by eating a clean diet, by fasting, and possibly supporting the gut by adding probiotics to your body. Some of us can just get away with eating meat and cleaning up our diet and then healing our gut completely. I have several clients that have been able to do that, but then we have other clients that are not able to do that. And that's because, some people have been sicker for longer and there's a lot more gut dysbiosis. I think it's really bio-individual. And so I don't want you guys to walk away from this thinking that you need, X amount of supplements. I do think supplements work and basically speed up the healing process, but I'm not saying that it's always needed. So I do think that your body can detox and help the die off even without any supplements. In my upcoming book, I talk a lot more about the details about gut health and how I think you can support your body. So stay tuned for that. We also get into talking about the difference between meat stock and bone broth, and I just wanted to clarify that meat stock is pretty much bone broth, but it's using more of the flesh, so more of the muscle meat. It is using some of the bone, but it's usually cooked much less longer than bone broth, and a lot of times people add vegetables. They won't necessarily eat the vegetables, but then they'll eat the enzymes in the vegetables. I don't know if I necessarily agree with that, but it's, obviously if a little bit of vegetable flavoring will allow you to consume bone broth, that's probably better than no bone broth. But meat stock is definitely a good option if you have histamine intolerances. You can also cook bones in a pressure cooker, and that'll cook the bones and even the meats way faster, and so there will be less histamines released. The best bones to use are knuckles, joints, feet, and chicken feet and marrow bones. I have a video on how to cook a nutrient-dense bone broth, and I also have a nutrient-dense bone broth guide. I will link to both of them in the show notes. Lastly, chicken feet have much more gelatin than many of the beef bones, and it's significantly cheaper than the beef bones that have gelatin. So make sure to get your gelatin and your collagen through your bone broths. If bone broth causes histamine or like some sort of sensitivity, then definitely try more of a meat stock. And meat stock, you can use meat like oxtail, short ribs, meat that adds more flavor, and there is a little less collagen, but it's still nutrient dense. And as Sonny says in the Q&A, it'll provide you that gut healing support and some of the nutrient density as well. All right, guys, let's get into this. I'm very excited to share, and I will talk to you guys at the end of the video. Hey guys, I am very excited to have Ancestral Health Guy with me today. You guys probably have seen many of his infographics and probably shared many of them as well. We will talk a lot about gut health, and we'll talk about anxiety and how to heal anxiety. And we will also talk about the foods that will be beneficial to heal your gut. So Ancestral Health Guy, I'm very excited to have you on.
Hey Judy, thanks so much for inviting me.
Oh no, thanks for coming on. So if for those of you viewers that don't know you, if you can introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your story.
Yeah, so my name is Sonny. I've been born and raised in London the whole time. And basically, I've always had a bit of social anxiety throughout my childhood, but like around kind of college time, it just got a lot worse. And it could have been because of the just more junk food, more stress in general, but my anxiety just got worse and worse. So it got to a point where I was getting panic attacks and anxiety attacks, really bad social anxiety. Like I could literally go to a lesson and I'd have to leave the classroom because it was so bad. I couldn't even answer like a question without like the stress of it getting to me. And I went to see, therapists, like hypnotherapists,
Hmm.
psychiatrists, people that give you pills. Luckily, I never really took the pills, but so in the end, I just got really desperate and I started learning about gut health, the keto diet. And for me, the keto diet itself didn't really help, but when I went carnivore, it really helped. So there was something about the carnivore diet, probably the meat, that really
Right,
helped
right.
me. And then I got passionate about helping other people so they don't have to suffer like I did. So I created the Instagram, and that's basically how Ancestral Health Guy was started. Yeah.
Right. Okay. So then what is like one of the reasons why I mean, I know you just said that you like to help people, but
hmm
we see your infographics everywhere. What is one of the like motivations into creating these graphics and being on Instagram?
Yeah. So the biggest one is because the biggest one is helping people, but probably the
Hmm.
second biggest is probably it's just health is so complicated and it's really hard to not many people are like looking at studies. They're not like they're just looking at like an article saying, meat is bad for you or like, and they don't understand. So I just try to make it like really simple for people and just I feel that's the best thing you can do to help
Yeah.
people understand it more
Right.
easily.
And
Yeah.
I do the same thing. I'm on the same page. I think people want like quick, easy, digestible information, and if it's the easier it is, the more it'll kind of stick. And
Yeah.
I think if we understand that, I think it's sort of our duty as like humans in this connected world that we can share the information.
Mm.
So in terms of your gut healing and using the carnivore diet, how did you find the carnivore diet? How long were you on keto, and then how long were you on carnivore until you saw some healing? If you could talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I started like I found Dr. Berg on YouTube
Oh,
and I was doing the sort of his keto diet, like high fat, make sure my protein wasn't too high kind of thing. I
yeah.
did that for about maybe like 2 months or something, and I
Hmm.
just didn't feel anything, so I went back to kind of a standard American diet kind of thing. And then I saw Jordan Peterson on YouTube saying how his like anxiety and depression was so much better after he went on an all meat diet. And I was like, wow, this is kind of crazy. So I started adding some. I started my first meal. I had like ground beef and eggs, and
Hmm.
I really didn't enjoy it. I felt a bit sick. I felt like I was gonna die or something. Like, oh my God, this cholesterol's gonna kill me or something. Um, so that's how it started. And to be
Okay.
honest, it didn't help straight away, but I just kept the next week, I tried it again. And this time I tried like a steak, a nice grass-fed steak with some butter and I just did it for about a month. I was like, I need to do this because my anxiety is so bad. I can't even like live life
Right.
normally. So I was in such a desperate position, which is why I did it. I would have never have done it if I wasn't in that position, probably. And yeah, I just after about maybe a week or so, I just felt a lot more relaxed, a lot more calm. My sleep improved. It really helped my anxiety straight away, pretty much after a week.
Wow, that's amazing. So how long did you say that you were struggling with anxiety?
I mean, social anxiety since very young, like 5 years old or something crazy. But
Wow. And
I really
so, mhm.
panic
Sorry, go ahead.
attacks. So panic attacks is like where the problem like started, real problem. Like, because if you've ever had a panic attack, it's one of the worst feelings in the world. Like you feel like you're gonna die.
Yeah.
So that was like I was suffering from that for like maybe a year or something. Yeah.
Wow. And then within a week, you felt a lot of the symptoms
hmm
alleviate
Yeah.
of your
Well,
anxiety just on a carnivore diet. Wow.
about a week or two. Yeah.
Wow,
hmm
that is amazing. So I know that you also incorporated a lot of raw dairy and antifungals like oregano oil. Can you talk a
Yeah.
little bit about that and why you included those
So at first it
oils?
wasn't that. At first it was just meat. It was just steaks.
Hmm.
But after a while, when I started feeling better, I was watching a lot, learning about the Weston A. Price Foundation, about all these ancestral tribes and how they're drinking. I was like, what is raw dairy? I don't understand. I never even heard of it. And luckily I have access to it, so I tried it. So the main reason why I did raw dairy was because the probiotic, the kefir, really good probiotic, and I had lots of food intolerances. Um, so I was researching more about it and I learned how like Candida and SIBO can cause these food intolerances. And I learned about how herbs are like really the only way to properly kill them because many people think you can just starve them out, but they can feed on anything. They can feed on ketones, they can feed on protein, they can feed off sugar. They feed the fastest on sugar, but you need some herbs to kill the Candida or SIBO. Otherwise, they'll just never go away. So I didn't do that for my anxiety. I did it just to heal my Candida, and because I definitely had some food intolerances and other symptoms like fatigue, which I think were caused by the Candida.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
And then what do you think caused your anxiety and the panic
Mhm.
attacks?
I think literally just a lack of red meat, like simply put, like vitamins like B12, saturated fat, cholesterol, carnitine. Many people don't realize carnitine should be really a nutrient. Like it should be a nutrient. It's so important for mental wellness. Loads of other things and like K2, D3. Like cholesterol is a precursor to D3. So some people, if they got too low cholesterol, they're not making much D3. So all
Sure.
these things in red meat, heme iron, another one, so important for mental wellness,
Right.
and we're not really talking about it. So I think because of the demonization of animal foods in like the Western world, people are just deficient in red meat, and that's a big cause for me personally. Yeah.
So when you were eating your standard diet, it was, I'm assuming there was a lot of carbs, but in terms of meat, you weren't eating any
I
red
was
meat.
eating meat, but I just wasn't, I was never eating like a steak, you know, I'd eat like
Got it.
just little, like people think we're eating a lot of meat, but they're really not. If you think about it, they're having like maybe a chicken Caesar salad, you know, like some tiny bit of chicken, or maybe I'd have some bacon once in a while, but I was never really eating a lot of meat, even though I was never, I was never vegan but I was always eating and I also think people don't realize that the standard American diet and English diet is kind of plant-based, if you think about it. Like most people are consuming
Yes.
more than like 70% of their calories from plants.
Yeah,
So
that's
that is
true.
not really a meat-based diet, even in the first place.
Yeah, and I mean, meat is so demonized, especially after the 50s, where they say if you eat a lot of
Hmm.
saturated fats, then you will get heart disease, and that is the cause of why heart
Yeah.
disease is increasing when it's completely false. So why did you take the oregano oils, and how did you take it? I mean, how did you know that, all of these steps were working? So how did you
Hmm.
know?
So I didn't really know for sure, but basically I started taking it because I had, in my opinion, this is basically how gut like health works. I wanted to rest the gut, which is like how the carnivore diet helped me do that. And then I wanted to kill the pathogens because I thought I had food intolerances. I was like, why do I have, why can't I eat an avocado well? Why can't I eat like I want to eat like some sort of other plant food once in a while? Why can't I eat other plant foods? So and I realized that it could have been caused by also like a candida or a SIBO. So that's why I did the oregano oil. And there's lots of them. There's Arco, there's caprylic acid. It's just antifungal, antibacterial. And how did I know when it was working, did you say?
Yes.
Yeah, so it's just a reduction in symptoms. Like after about a month of doing these antifungals, I could like tolerate foods better. Like say if I wanted to eat like a piece of bread or something, like if I went out with some friends or something, it would just feel a lot better. It wouldn't like hurt my gut as much.
Sure. It's interesting because you also started the carnivore diet in tandem with the antifungals. And so there's a lot of carnivores that don't take the antifungals. So it's interesting
Hmm.
you have to wonder, like, would you have felt the same way had you not taken the antifungals? I know that you said that without plants that they won't the bad bugs won't truly die off. There are
Hmm.
many carnivores that never take it and they feel that their guts are completely healed. Maybe it's the
Hmm.
bad bugs are dormant, who knows?
Yeah.
It's pretty interesting though. I do, and on the flip side, just agreeing with you, I know several carnivores that have been doing it for a year or two, and they eat a no scale, so they're not just eating steaks, but they still have gut issues. So if they up the
Hmm.
fat, especially rendered fat, more, then
Hmm.
they have the runs. And there's just certain symptoms that they're not fully able to heal. And when I talked with them, they have gut issues still, even though they're eating clean and eating carnivore for
Hmm.
several years. So that's when I would highly recommend probably these antifungals.
Yeah.
So, and you just, how do you use your oil? So do you like just use droppers? Do you put in your food?
So I use tinctures. Another thing to
Okay.
mention as well is like these sort of herbs, they're not really, they are plants, but they're kind of like plant chemicals in a weird way. Like
True.
they're not really like eating, it's not the same as eating a, broccoli or a carrot because like, and ancestral tribes have been using like plants as medicine. It's more like a
Mhm.
medicine rather than a food. So that's
Yes.
another thing to like, think about as well. So
So
yeah, I
then
use tincture
so-
forms,
okay, so
like
you don't ever put like
tinctures.
oregano and the other
Uh,
anti fungal seasonings on your foods,
You
Or
can, but I think the tinctures are just more effective, especially if they're in a capsule form, because it's more
sure.
likely to go further down the digestive tract. Because you have those Candida, like some of them are in the colon. So like, how are you going to get to the colon if you're just taking some herbs in your food?
That's true. And what about activated charcoal?
So
I know a
activated
lot of
charcoal,
people.
it's not a must. But what is it? It's a binder, like clay. So it binds up toxins together. So when you're fighting Candida or SIBO or any sort of pathogen, you're bound to get die off, which is when you kill them and they produce these symptoms as they're dying off, like fatigue. Some people get really bad die off, like they have skin issues. It all comes out in their skin. So what activated charcoal does is basically bind them up together and help you push them out of the body. So it's kind of a way, it like helps you detox these like toxins out,
Right.
which stops the die off symptoms from like, yeah, basically.
Yeah, and I mean that makes full sense. I always say that when you have gut health, the first like indication and sign of someone having gut health is skin issues. So it's like the eczema, the rashes, the hives, the psoriasis, and so it makes
Yeah.
sense that when the die off is happening and some of that like toxic stuff is spreading in your body, that you can then have skin issues again. Absolutely makes sense. One thing I do recommend for my clients is instead of just doing carnivore and detoxing at the same time, you have to make sure that your organs are also healthy and the systems are working right. So your kidneys are working, your liver's properly functioning so that it can even have the capacity to do detoxification for you.
Yeah.
If not, then maybe just start with the like bone broth and the meats. And then once you feel a little bit better, then maybe you could start putting in, like you said, the antifungals and
Yeah.
activated charcoal or whatever other tools you'll use. Did you use, and so with that thought, did you use the all of these like antifungals and all that in the beginning? You said no, but how long after did you start using it?
It
Which
was
makes
a, it
sense.
was a, it was about a month and maybe
Okay.
more than a month after. And I agree with you because it's really, it's a good job you mentioned that because people, yeah, you need to have enough nutrients to help you detox as well, right?
Yeah.
So if
Yeah.
you're like constantly detoxing, you're not giving your body a break, then it's gonna like affect you. It's gonna do more harm than good. Exactly.
Yeah, that's why I am so anti those juicing, and I've done so many juice cleanses in my life. Like I did
Yeah.
the lemon detox, which is honey and maple syrup, and yeah, but it's you need to heal your body first and have enough nutrients to
Mhm.
even do the detoxing. So that's why
Mm.
those juicing diets are so not good for you.
Agree with
And
that. Yeah.
so you said the way that you felt your gut was healed was just less symptoms. When did you feel symptom free, or do you feel symptom free now?
Yeah, I feel symptom free now completely. Like,
Okay.
I mean, I think the best way to tell if you're symptom free is test yourself. Like, I know, don't obviously eat really bad food all the time, but test yourself. Have something that's hard to digest normally. Have a pizza, and see how, like, obviously don't eat it every day, but I'm saying that's if you can tolerate that, it's a sign that your gut's healed. Like, if you can't tolerate any foods, then that is a sign that you're not really getting to the root cause. There's something still there. Or, for
Sure.
example, your immune system gets better, like you feel more mentally well. Your skin has better, your skin looks healthier. All these symptoms, I mean, all these things are a sign that your gut's
Right.
healed or
And
healthier.
what about your anxiety or your panic attacks? Do you still get those? And if you do, how do you handle anxiety
I
now?
haven't got a panic attack since I started that carnivore diet, which is great.
Awesome.
But I have gone to times when I've like experienced this anxious feeling, right? And the best thing I do now is I normally relax, take a walk. Walks are really important.
Yeah.
But mostly just I tell myself as well, like it's okay to feel anxious. Like people always tell me it's like, how do I stop feeling anxious? And I say, why do you want to stop feeling anxious, right?
That's
Like
a normal feeling.
there's a difference between feeling anxious and feeling panic and like you're gonna die, right? There's a big difference, and it's okay to feel anxious. There's a reason why people feel anxious. It's exciting as well. It's like a sign that you care about something, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I try to tell my clients that if you feel anxious, it's okay to feel human emotions, right? You have to feel the bad ones to then understand and appreciate the good ones. And
Mm-hmm.
so anxiety is a feeling in your body. It's a state that's telling you that something is bothering you. And so I think really it's not that people don't want to feel anxious, it's people don't want to feel the anxiety that then makes them do a behavior that they may not like. And so they think
Yeah.
ideally it's just let's just kill the anxiety. I think really it's about educating, okay, so once you feel the anxiety, what is it that bad behavior you do, and then
let's cut it or change it, and then let's change it into a behavior that's conducive to your mental health, your physical health, etc.
Yeah.
So for me personally, when I used to feel anxiety, then I tended to binge, and that would relieve some of the anxiety in the moment, but obviously I would feel a lot worse. I'd start feeling groggy and all that stuff. And now when I feel anxiety, and you feel it, it's like you feel this like rush of blood, you feel tense, right? And you feel like you want to pace. And now I just play music, and this is some of the one tool I use, but I play music and I just start like dancing or singing really loud, and it releases it, right? Because we need these cues in our bodies to acknowledge what is going on. And I think that's why anxiety and these things, these emotions are important. And so for you, you go on walks. Is there anything else that you do to sort of relieve?
Like I like taking like baths. I like just, hanging out with my girlfriend. But there isn't like a really main thing I do in the moment. I'd say just it's more about preparation, like getting all the keys together, having good sleep, having a good meal. Like it's not really about like dealing with the actual symptoms in the moment.
Right. Talking about your raw milk. So do you now consume raw milk often?
I prefer fermented dairy.
Okay.
I just like it's easier to digest, right? It's got more nutrients, so why not ferment it? But yeah, I do drink it from time to time. But I normally make it into kefir because it just feels amazing when I drink kefir. And raw milk tends to be harder to digest because it's got the lactose is pre-digested when it turns to kefir and other things and stuff like that.
Yeah, the only note I want to make for the people watching is that if you have any Candida, and you have to be mindful of your fermentation foods, because if you have severe gut issues and like Candida, they will feed off your fermented foods. So you should actually hold off on that. So you can have kefir and like kimchi and all those, all the fermented foods, but just wait until you have your gut healed.
Yeah, I don't know, because for me it was like, I mean, I'm kind of disagreeable with that because for me it was like important to have fermented foods because if you think about it, if you kill all the candida with herbs, they're just going to grow back unless you reculture the gut with something. So it doesn't necessarily mean you have to have fermented foods, but you need to take some sort of probiotic at the same time.
So that's how I recommend it with my clients. Is I have them on a spore probiotic, and so the spores they cut through all of your digestive system. So yes, I fully agree. You need to have. I mean, if you're killing your bad bugs, then you need good bugs to grow. Right. Yeah. So yes, I agree with that. I absolutely agree that you do need probiotics. But I don't. For me, from just all that I've experienced, when they use like the fermented foods, it did not heal their Candida. But that's interesting. It's it's all bio individual. So why would you say that pasteurized milk is bad or not ideal?
Because so the enzymes bacteria is what makes like raw dairy easy to digest, right? So for example, lactase is in raw milk, which helps digest lactose, and there's even some enzymes that help you digest some like casein. And so when you're pasteurizing the milk, unless it's really low pasteurization, you're basically killing all these enzymes and bacteria. Even like there's like white bloods, there's like the cow or the animal is literally giving you immune system from the dairy. Like there's like white blood cells, there's antibodies which are killed during pasteurization. So like many of the health benefits of dairy is destroyed when you pasteurize, basically heat up dairy.
Yes, I completely agree. And I'm not sure how it is in the UK, but in the States, when so the organic milks are very, very highly pasteurized at, high temperatures. So what you're saying is, it's ironic because most people are shifting to organic milk, but those are the ones that even have probably the least amount of nutrients. And then they just fortify it with all this fake crap or fake vitamins. So it's just, it's unfortunate, but so
it's the same. It's the same here. And also there's like homogenized, which is really bad as well. Yeah, so you want to kind of avoid those.
Do you want to talk about that a little bit? Like, why is homogenation bad?
Yeah, it's just the worst thing. And another thing I want to mention as well is that I do buy like pasteurized dairy if I can't get raw dairy. Like I just find a really good like grass-fed brand.
Sure.
Because like it's even in UK, you're not allowed to sell it in stores. You have to find an amazing like a farmer's market.
Oh, okay.
So it's a bit annoying, but I try to like if I'm really lazy and I don't want to go out to farmer's market, then I'll buy like if I'm making some sort of I don't know if I want to make kefir, I'd buy really good quality grass-fed dairy.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, so it's like I get lots of messages from people from like Australia or different countries who can't buy raw dairy because it's illegal.
Okay.
So I do tell them like, yeah, have some grass-fed like pasteurized butter if you can't get raw butter, or like it's not the end of the world, and you
Right,
don't
right.
need dairy in your diet, but dairy is nutrient dense and it's one of the best sources of K2 that not many other foods really have, especially if you're an nutrient dense, especially if you're only eating animal foods.
Yeah, I just made a list of, and I don't know why I can't recall, but I just made a list of foods that you need and that are rich in K2, but definitely dairy is one. I don't remember the other ones for some reason.
Pork
I just,
lard, like
oh yeah,
pork lard.
a dark chicken is one too. Dark
Oh,
chicken.
okay. I didn't know
Yeah.
that. Interesting. Yeah.
So in terms of the gut, when you are trying to heal the gut, what vegetables would you say these are absolute no's, like do not eat or touch these foods?
Yeah. So I think first of all, if your gut's really injured, I don't think you should even be eating vegetables, to be honest. Like you're better off like you don't necessarily have to be, you just meat. I would stick to meat if your gut's really injured because vegetables, people think they're easy to digest, but they're really not. The
Right.
vegetables are very hard to digest, and we haven't got the gut of like a herbivore or even a gorilla or an ape.
Right.
We can't digest vegetables like they can. So if we do want to eat them, then for me it's about preparation. So boil them a lot. Like it doesn't necessarily if you want to eat carrots, boil the hell out of them. Like because that will reduce. Many people don't realize this, but anti-nutrients also
Yeah.
they affect digestion. So foods that are high in anti-nutrients also tend to be hard to digest.
Yes.
So I would get rid of spinach, no kale. Just keep the like
Yes.
boiled carrots, like really boiled broccoli. Even maybe some kimchi, sauerkraut. It's not too bad because at least it's fermented, which helps you digest it, the enzymes and
Right.
bacteria.
So how long did you eat carnivore and then heal that you kind of started introducing a little bit of vegetables?
So I was doing carnivore diet for maybe like 2 months or more.
Okay.
But I did, and then I started introducing vegetables after that. But to be honest, even now I don't really eat much vegetables. I
Okay.
don't think they're essential. I eat carbs now, like some sort of forms of like raw honey, some other forms like mashed potatoes, because I feel good with a mixture of like carbs and lots of meat. But I keep my diet meat based. But I honestly
Sure.
don't think vegetables are essential.
Okay. No, yeah. So can you tell our listeners a little bit about the difference between a prebiotic and probiotics?
Yeah, so prebiotic would be like fibrous food, which I don't think are that important. Kimchi is a good prebiotic and probiotic because so probiotic is like something the foods with high in bacteria. So kimchi, and then it has the fiber and the probiotic. Kefir is a really good probiotic. Even cured meats. Be careful though because many of them use too many nitrates. So you need to find like a traditionally made brand without they don't use lots of nitrates. And then you have, kombucha can be a good probiotic. And if you want to experiment with like, there's a high liver, like, fermented liver. But
Oh.
yeah, so best probiotics would be those sort of kefir, kimchi, these sort of things.
Do you ever supplement with like supplements for probiotics?
I do, yeah, I use the spore-based one. I don't know what one
Okay.
you use, but the Thrive one, just the Thrive probiotics. Have you heard of this one?
What's the
It's
brand?
like a Thrive, just Thrive, isn't it? It's like a spore-based one, basically.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
okay. No, I partnered with a pharmaceutical grade one, but it's spore
Oh,
based,
okay, yeah.
and they have studies where they show the efficacy of the supplement. But it's pretty cool. We can link to everything below. What other supplements do you take other than possibly the probiotics?
I take Ancestral Supplements if I'm not
Oh,
getting
okay.
enough organ meats.
Mhm.
I take that spore-based probiotic. I don't think I need to take it, but I feel like why not? If I don't have
For
access,
maintenance. Yeah.
yeah, just why not? I don't take antifungals anymore, but I will take them once in a while just to if I just keep it in the maintenance exactly.
Yeah.
And what else do I take? I have my supplements over there. I could go and look at them. Oh, I have an activated charcoal supplement
Okay.
because now in the modern world, another thing I should mention is that we're always exposed to like toxins, right? So activated charcoal is just a good way to detox toxins. It just
Do
binds
you
up the toxins together.
sure? Do you feel any like symptoms of when you take the activated charcoal often?
Well, another thing I should mention is you should take it like without food. So take it just before bed because it can like mess with the food.
Hmm.
Or if you like feel like if you ate something that gave you a reaction, you take activated charcoal, then it actually sort of relieves it somehow.
Yeah.
It like that can really help. So I
Yeah.
don't really
No.
notice it that much.
Yeah, I've experienced that too. So I ate out. I think the steakhouse we were eating at maybe used really bad oils. I'm not really sure. But then I started breaking out in hives, and then I took activated charcoal, and I felt a little better that
Oh,
night. But I don't know if it's also I just healed with
mm,
eating more meat-based food. So
yeah,
so
yeah.
what do you think about L-glutamine? It's a
Mhm.
popular. Go ahead.
So well, raw milk and raw dairy contain L-glutamine. So I would just say like, why not get it from a natural source first? Because
But what
like,
is it for the followers that don't really?
yeah. Well, it also it tends, if I'm not mistaken, it helps the body detox as well in general.
Yes.
Um, and some people say to me like, oh, does raw dairy? Why do I get like spots when I have raw dairy or something straight away? And when I first took raw dairy, I had like diarrhea. I had some spots. I should
Hmm.
mention this. It's like the first week I had these like weird symptoms, and I kept taking it because I saw a Western A Price video that said that you need to take like small amounts every day.
Hmm.
And after a week, I just stopped having these symptoms. But I reckon it might have been because of L-glutamine, which not many people like really talking about. And also the problem with supplementation in general is that in you got to be careful because in nature, right, the whole foods come with certain nutrients and certain, molecules that help you absorb other nutrients and utilize all its properties. So if
Right.
you're taking like just supplements, sometimes if you do it too much if you don't take it with other nutrients, then it can actually find nutrients in your body and it will take those nutrients. So it might be leading you deficient in some nutrients.
Yeah, I completely agree. I see a lot of people put collagen on their steak or
Yeah.
other, but our body likes to be in
Hmm.
balance, and so there are so many different balances in our body. Like if you, and I tell this to a lot of people, so I'll just say it right now, but if you, for example, are deficient in sodium, your body will throw out potassium and magnesium first
Hmm.
before it throws out sodium. And so when people are like, oh, I need to supplement potassium and magnesium, it might just be that you need more salt because your body, again, will throw out the potassium and magnesium first before it throws out sodium. So
Mm.
I
Yeah.
agree. So yeah, so do you, and even within potassium and magnesium, there's also, so it's, I think it, so don't quote me on this one, but it might be that it throws out potassium first before magnesium. And so that's maybe why you can't really overdose on magnesium, but you can overdose on potassium.
Mm. Okay. I didn't really realize that. It's interesting.
Yeah, well, there's several. There's these like balances in our body. Yeah, but and so for you, do you never add those like collagen and other than like in bone
I
broth?
don't. I don't. I have lots of bone broth. And I don't really take any collagen supplements. I don't take much. I do take now it's getting cold. I don't know how it is there, but
Oh
in the
no,
UK
it's the
it's already
90s still.
cold. Oh,
Oh, okay.
lucky. Yeah, so I'm already taking like some D3 of K2.
Okay.
Um,
Okay.
but make sure you take it with the K2 or it
Yeah.
can go in weird places.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So in terms of your Candida, so one, how did you know it was Candida and not another gut issue? And
Yeah,
then,
so I didn't take a test for that. Sorry, you can finish what you're saying.
oh, and then I was just going to ask, so how do people heal Candida? I mean, other than any other tips than the ones that we've talked about?
Okay. Yeah, so I self-diagnosed myself, so I'm not like 100% sure I had Candida.
Oh, okay.
But I
Okay.
had so many of the symptoms, and
Sure.
the antifungals worked so well, and I just noticed a massive reduction in my symptoms. So I'm pretty like 90% sure it was Candida. But I didn't get a self-diagnosis because after the whole anxiety thing, I didn't really trust doctors. And I had this other problem where I went to a doctor and they literally diagnosed me with Lyme disease. And I took some
Oh my
like
goodness.
Lyme disease like antibiotics, and it just after like eating more meat, it just went away completely, and like, it wasn't Lyme disease at all. So I just
Right.
basically that's the reason why I never got any tests done because I just
Sure.
didn't really, yeah. So yeah, and the other question about Candida. So another thing we didn't mention is so the four tips I recommend for like healing any sort of gut condition is like one is like rest the gut.
Yes.
People don't really realize this, but if you looked inside our gut, it would have the same symptoms as an injured arm. It'd have inflammation, it'd have like wounds, like so like you have to rest it. Like people don't realize because they can't see their gut like they can, but it really is like a broken arm. Like you have to
Yes.
rest it with easy to digest foods. So that's where like meat and carnivore diet comes in for me. It's like you need to like because meat is easy to digest, so
Yeah.
rest the gut. And then the second thing would be like antifungals if you think you have some sort of pathogen problem. And then the third step would be reculture the gut with probiotics.
Right.
And then the fourth step is like heal the gut lining with bone broth or meat stock. So those are like my main steps for healing. And then some people can add in like activated charcoal afterwards as well as like a fifth step.
Sure. So what other than oregano oil, what else do you what other antifungals are there?
So my favorite ones is oregano oil, Puldiaca. It's like from South American, comes from South America. Caprylic acid.
Okay.
Even ginger and turmeric. Like obviously, turmeric's got quite a high in oxalates, so maybe
It's
not.
very high in oxalates.
So maybe I would avoid that for some people. Like some people react really sensitive to oxalates. So ginger, you could use I don't know. You could use grapefruit seed extract, but it's like another plant kind of. There's loads more. There's like billions of antifungals that you can get on the market. I'm trying to think of another one.
Yeah, I have a list too that I give my clients, but but they're more seasoning based, so they're more like oregano. I trying to think of what the other one. It's not basil,
like
but
wormwood extract as well. Like wormwood, like use that for parasites and for Candida.
Yeah, and some practitioners recommend just like biting and chewing on garlic.
Oh yeah, the raw garlic. Yeah, that can help as well. That's really antifungal.
Yes. And then some say also like coconut oil, but
Yeah, it's really not. It's not very like potent, you know.
Yeah, I
Same with
agree.
like honey. It's like honey is technically antifungal, but it's not really.
Yeah.
It doesn't really. I saw an experiment someone did on YouTube they literally they had Candida in like a little test, like a test, what's it called? Like a
Petri
test
dish.
petri dish, yeah. And they literally like fed it things, and it like grew the fastest on like bread. It really liked bread. It didn't grow. For some reason, it grew on lemon, even though lemon's acidic. So you thought it would have like, and it didn't grow on like butter or meat very well. But it's still
That's interesting. I'll have to get the URL for that.
Yeah, I'll send you it.
YouTube.
And anyway, so oregano oil was like the most effective by far. But also people need to know that you can't starve Candida. You could do a carnivore diet for your whole life and you won't be able to starve it. You could literally
and you need Candida in your body. I mean, Candida is a natural part of our body.
There's like fungus and yeast. I think yeast is like fine, but the problem is when it like turns into the fungal form, is when it's like a problem. Because I think everyone needs yeast, but I think there's like yeast Candida and there's fungal Candida.
Okay.
So I think there's a bit different when it's a fungus.
I just think it's when there's overgrowth, right? And then also you're inundating your systems with too much food and too many toxins, and it's just the perfect storm. So we do need Candida, and so I think it's really about how do you tame the Candida to normal levels. And so for you, like, and from the people that you've talked with, how do you know which part of the gut needs to be healed, right? And so just let me, there's the stomach, there's even up to the esophagus, your mouth, and then the smaller, large intestines. Like, how do you know if it's, like, for example, if it's Candida versus like a heavy metal toxin, or if it's leaky gut or SIBO, etc.
Yeah, so that's one of the hardest things to do. The hardest thing to do is find the root cause, is where it is. And the only way to find that out is either to experiment a bit, try different things. But also you can do tests. There's loads of tests you can do to get tested where the area is. That's one of the things you can actually use doctors for. Get a test of where the inflammation is in the gut to see where the problem is, like if it's in the colon. And the funny thing that people don't realize is all these gut diseases, if you look at the like definition of them, they all just mean like inflammation of the gut in a different place.
Sure, that's true.
And what is inflammation? It's like a response to injury. So you've injured something somehow. And it could be to do with like eating hard to digest foods. It could be like even pathogens, they actually injure you from the inside. They kill cells, they can damage the gut lining. So like it's just a simple like that's why the carnivore diet, in my opinion, does so well for people with gut injury, because it's like resting the gut. It's like you're putting your gut on like on a nice sofa, just like letting him chill for a bit, you know.
So do you believe in fasting as well while you're doing carnivore? Or do you?
I do, but I don't know. For me, it's a bit different because I'm a really skinny guy.
Yeah.
So if I did fasting like and carnivore, I was literally like on a twig, like. So, but I do recommend it certain times. But I think dry fasting is a bit much, and I think
Yeah.
for some people it can be a bit.
Yeah,
It's
no,
just
I don't. I
much.
think your body really needs hydration. It's actually one of the
Yeah.
really much needed nutrients. And so I think maybe like 12, maybe 24 hours, but I don't really recommend it much more than that. I think it's just unnecessary danger for your body. And I
Yeah,
mean, it could literally shut down your organs and stuff.
I agree with
In
that.
terms, so in terms of, we don't hear many stories of, oh, I'm skinny and I'm trying to gain weight. I do have people that reach out to me of like, how do you gain weight while I'm doing carnivore? So what would you recommend for people that, they want to eat clean, but they don't want to lose all this weight, and because they already lose weight as it is. So what would you recommend that their diet should be like?
Yeah, so I've tried like adding as much fat as I can, and it didn't help. And
Yeah.
the problem is, I felt bad as well because once you lower your protein, it's not always the best idea for everyone.
Yeah.
So if I would recommend like, I know unless you're really scared of like sugar and carbs, I'd recommend like raw honey or something. It's still
Okay.
technically from an animal product, or nut. If you're keto, nut butters help a lot. But honestly, just eating more. But that's one of the reasons why I recommend I'm not like always on keto and carnivore. That's one of the reasons why I recommend people can add some easy to digest carbs in their diet, some fruits, some raw honey, some, you don't have to eat grains and starches to to get some like carbs, because carbs do make people put on weight generally.
Yes.
But yeah, eating more and even dairy can help because dairy can help put on a bit of weight. So yeah, I
Yeah.
did the mixture of that, of dairy, some honey, because yeah, especially if you don't want to eat like any starches, then yeah, honey, fruit, dairy.
Yeah, I think it's from my experience, I really think it's just you need to consume more calories. So I know it's harder for some people to just eat
Yeah.
like 2 pounds of meat, or that many kilograms of meat. But
Hmm.
I mean, you just that will, and I recommend like eating marrow. So because it's
Mm.
very, very high in fat, and
Yeah,
there's
yeah.
protein. It's just finding ways to find the foods that have, that are like jam packed in calories, and they don't
Hmm.
fill your stomach a lot.
Yeah.
That's why cheese is good, because you can overeat cheese a
Hmm.
lot. It's
Hmm.
basically all the foods that a lot of people don't try to eat that will make you gain weight. And so you
Yeah.
should eat those foods, I think.
Hmm.
Do you have a favorite recipe for meat stock?
Um, I just do really traditional, like it's not the tastiest, but I literally just, put the bones in a pot, like, heat it up for like 2 hours or so. And but also I don't know what, like for some reason a lot of people, when you first boil the bones and there's like a foam
There's
that comes to the
scum.
top.
Mhm.
Yeah, I always take that out.
Yeah,
Uh,
no, I do. I recommend that
yeah,
too.
because it's weird because loads of people like message me saying like, "Oh, why did you take the foam out?" And I'm like, I thought it's kind of obvious. Like, I don't
Yeah.
even know exactly what that foam is.
It's just like, I think it's like the remnants of the blood. It's like
Mm.
scum. And so I mean,
Okay, yeah, that's
technically,
what
if you
it is.
think
Yeah.
about it, we don't wash our steaks before we cook it. And so it's
Mhm.
there too, but it just doesn't rise up in the boiling water. But
Okay,
I
yeah.
mean, it's up to you people. But I mean, I have been raised by my parents to always, so my mom and grandparents, they always ate bone broth. And
Hmm.
so they always clean the scum. Actually, they would take out all the water and clean the bones and then cook it. And then it would be purely white when they would do it. I don't even do that. I just take off the
Hmm.
scum on the top and I just keep cooking it. So it's up to
Yeah.
everyone. I don't think it hurts. I mean, I have tried it without the scum removed, but I mean, it just seems cleaner. I guess maybe
Mhm.
that's why.
It's amazing how much you don't realize this, but the traditional cultures or just like, like whatever, any country, like they always have bone broths in their diet. And
Yeah.
I never knew it was bone broth because my grandma makes chicken soup, right? And when
Mhm.
I'm ill, and I was always like, oh, what's in chicken soup? And then later on, I realized this, like after learning about the whole like bone broth thing, I was like, wow, it's like basically meat stock. And
Yeah.
that's why it heals so much. And I was like, and I learned like, wow, like that makes so much sense now, you know?
Yeah, no, I totally understand. My parents and my grandparents, you know, they immigrated from Korea, and so
Mhm.
a lot of times I'd grow up in a Western culture, and we would be drinking these bone broths, and you know, our house would smell of like fermented soybeans,
Yeah.
and I'm like, this is so gross, and I'm so embarrassed. I don't want to have anyone come over our house.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
now, as I learn about nutrition, it's like, wow, now I get why you guys
That's
like
cool. Like that's like
we
cool though.
put yeah, we used to have these big tubs for the fermented soy in these clay, you know, so
Mhm.
they weren't using plastic. And then they would literally put the kimchi into these containers and then put it underground, like literally inside
Wow.
the ground,
Wow,
and it
that's
would
cool.
ferment that way. And they would keep it
Wow.
there until like winter and bring it out. It's so, I thought it was so bizarre, and now I
Yeah,
get it. And
I
so
get it.
my
Yeah.
mom laughs that I'm like telling people to try bone broth when I used to hate that she would
Yeah.
make me drink it. So it's
Yeah.
it's so funny. It's
It's really
there's so much
ancestral.
truth. Yeah, there's so much truth to our you know, even our great grandparents and what they were
Hmm.
eating. Um,
Totally, yeah.
do you have any recommendations? So a lot of people give pushback with bone broth because they say, one, the taste,
Mm.
and then two, some people struggle with histamine intolerance. Have you noticed anything about that? And if you want to
Yeah.
talk about it.
Yeah, people do ask me that, and it's kind of embarrassing because when I first like started my account, I didn't even know what the difference between meat stock and bone broth was,
Hmm.
and I learned about it, and I realized like yeah, like meat stock tends to heal the gut lining better, and bone broth is more for the minerals and
Yes.
for keeping the gut healthy. And I didn't realize that before. I was always making bone broth, and I was like, and I tried meat stock, and it really did feel a lot like more not like sort of easier on the gut.
Right.
Yeah. So yeah, people have told me that, and I tell people all the time like, yeah. So if you're having problems reacting to bit bone broth, try the meat stock, and
Yeah,
normally people
I say the
seem
same.
to.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
completely agree with you.
Yeah.
So, I mean, just based off everything we've said, I think you know, most of the watchers would know this, but what would you feel is the most optimal diet?
So I would feel like a meat-based diet basically is the way to put it. So it doesn't mean you have to be carnivore or keto, but you need to consume the majority of your calories from animal foods. You know, I feel like Weston A. Price, his work was amazing, what he did, and the diets they were eating was kind of like they had amazing like powers almost. They had perfect teeth, like amazingly strong, never got diseases. I mean, like there was one like tribe that could see the moons of Jupiter from with their naked eyes, and like
Wow.
book is crazy. And like so, I think the diet they were eating, which was lots of organ meats, raw dairy, like some fermented grains, you know, fruits depending on the season. So this kind of diet would be just like a ancestral diet, high in animal foods,
Hmm.
fermented foods. You know,
Yeah.
that's what I think. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree. My husband's like, why don't you just add some, because we have kimchi all the time at our house. I
Mm.
mean, because we're Korean. And
Yeah.
so he's like, why don't you just eat kimchi? It's supposed to be good, but
Yeah.
occasionally I'll have a little bit, but I just don't, I'm
Yeah.
not a fan of the flavor, to be honest. But
Mhm.
I mean, occasionally I'll have a little, but yeah, I agree with you. I think it's, that is the optimal diet. I think if we look at, you know, that whole book on, from Weston A. Price, it shows so many different cultures from all over the world that,
Yeah.
that ate, you know, primarily meat and a lot of fat, and their faces are, you know, they're plump, and their
Yeah.
teeth, like they didn't ever have dentists, and they never
Yeah.
had cavities, and then it's just one generation, like those pictures where you see like the oldest sibling and then the youngest. It's
Yeah. It's crazy, right?
crazy, right? Like
Yeah.
that the youngest sibling gets introduced to like the breads and the sugars, and all of a
Yeah.
sudden they're skinnier, but their teeth, like, right, the
Hmm.
crowding, their teeth are
Yeah. Yeah.
messed
Yeah.
up. But then the oldest sibling, maybe like a few decades earlier, they're
Yeah.
perfectly healthy. It's
Hmm.
it's so sad, and it's
It's,
wild.
it's really crazy.
In terms of fiber, so what's your stance on fiber? You know, a lot of, they say the standard American diet is
Yeah.
you need fiber, your colon needs butyrate from these you know,
Yeah.
short
Yeah.
chain fatty acids, and you need you know, to have bowel movements, you need to like clear
Yeah.
out your intestines, and without eating fiber, we will
Hmm.
not be healthy. So what are your
Hmm.
thoughts?
So I think first of all, like I've actually seen a study showing that like certain proteins in chicken and other meat can actually feed our microbiome.
Hmm.
But it's not the evidence so far is in favor of, you know, you need fiber for your microbiome. So it's hard to argue it with like concrete evidence. But I personally feel better with a bit of fiber in my diet. When I was carnivore, my bowel movements weren't amazing. But for me, if I eat too much fiber, or even if I just consume like too much fiber, it's just horrible. Just like
Yeah.
just my gut just feels really like heavy all the time. So I think a bit of fiber is fine. I don't think you need to. I don't think fiber is this like enemy of like humans. But the interesting thing to mention as well is that humans can't. It's insoluble
Yes.
cellulose, right? Whereas monkeys, even gorillas, like people say, oh, we're primates, like eat like a gorilla, but like they can digest insoluble fiber, so we can't. There must be sort of reason for that, right?
Yeah, I mean, so there was a period I was completely carnivore, and then I kind of went off it probably a year ago, and then I just experimented with a little bit of vegetables. I had a salad,
Mm.
and oh my gosh, I think that was way too much
You
fiber
have
for
it.
me all of a
Yeah.
sudden. The bloat, the stomach pains, it just
Hmm.
all came back. But
Yeah.
when I've had like one or two like kimchi pieces, I didn't really notice a big deal. I did feel like a little bit of gas, which you basically have none on carnivore, right? So
Yeah.
there was that. But yeah, I agree with you. I mean, I think it's really bio-individual. Some people, if they have any sort of veggies, they feel really sick. And so
Yeah.
then you probably listen to your body and don't have any, right? But I agree with you. I think if you want to have a little bit, if that'll give you some sanity to stay carnivore, then go for it, right? So
Mm.
um, yeah, and I think there was and in terms of a lot of the like clients I work with and even just anecdotal stories. So there's
Yeah.
always this, when you first go carnivore, people are so shocked at how different the bowel movements are. They feel constipated, but a lot of it's sometimes just mental. Like they're used to going and
Mm.
having these large bowel movements and going very often. And then some people will have the runs, but over time it balances out. So if you give it 3 months, you will get used to these really, really small bowel movements, which shows that you don't have anything to waste, right? Like you're
No, right. It
absorbing all
shows
the
that
nutrients.
your body's absorbing the protein
Yeah,
really well. So it's not
yeah,
it's not some people say like, oh, it's really hard to digest, but if you only eat meat, it's like not much is really coming out. So it's a sign that you're actually digesting it better than plant foods, right?
yeah. I
Yeah.
always say to my clients, I'm like, are you gaining a ton of weight on carnivore? Because they're concerned about the bowel movements and they're not releasing toxins, and they're like,
Mm-hmm.
no, I'm not gaining weight, I'm losing weight. And so it's like, yeah, then that you're absorbing it. It's not that it's
Mm.
like stuck somewhere in your body and you're just
Yeah,
not
yeah,
able to poo it out, right? Um,
exactly.
so yeah, I think most people, they start regulating to one time a day or every 2 days, and that's completely normal. I think it's a big mind shift. It's a big
Hmm.
paradigm shift to understand that, hey, my bowel movements will be much smaller. They may not be every day, and it's okay. So I don't think you need the fiber. Like you said, there's not a ton of studies right now, unfortunately. So we'll have to see. But what about white rice? So I know that white rice doesn't have a ton of nutrients, but I saw that you ferment white rice. One, how do you do that? And then why aren't you opposed to
Yeah.
rice?
Hmm. So like you can do if you want to consume like whole foods, you can do brown rice, but it's just hard. You need to really like prepare it well. You need to like soak it for a long time,
Brown
ferment the
rice has
brown
a lot
rice.
of anti-nutrients, a
Yeah,
lot.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So that's why I recommend white rice to people that want to add some carbs in the diet because it's a lot less dangerous in terms of anti-nutrients. But
Agreed.
you can ferment with like yogurt. You can
Oh,
like
okay.
anything acidic, like you can like soak it overnight basically. What I always do is recommend is you soak the rice before you use it anyway. So if you want to eat some
Yes.
white rice, then like at least soak before you cook it, just soak it in water for like 10 minutes, and it's amazing. Like you see all this like weird stuff come to the top, and those are all like the plant chemicals, like lots of them. And then you like use the rice milk or whatever to cook it. So you don't necessarily need to ferment it. But people with
Hmm.
really sensitive guts, the best thing you could do is like if you want to consume some carbs, then make it into like a rice porridge, like like an
Oh,
Asian
yes.
dish, have like a ghee, what's it called, like kongi, like
Yeah, that's Japanese,
kongi.
but yes. Uh-huh.
Yeah, it's like the more you break down plant foods, the easier it is to digest.
Oh,
So
that's
like
interesting.
that's why mashed potatoes are like really if I eat a baked potato, it's like feels heavy. If I eat mashed potatoes, then it feels a lot lighter because the more you break it down, the more the plant anti-nutrients are sort of less and it breaks down all the molecules.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
that just goes back to my parents. My mom and grandma, they would always just have the rice in water and just sitting there. And I'm like, what are they doing? Obviously, I didn't know anything again. And I mean, I don't think they understood the logic. They just, it was traditionally passed down. But they would pour out that water and then, use fresh water and then they would cook it again. But we like rinse the rice, like as if we're washing it like it's laundry. So even after they do that, we like, she would make me wash the rice until the water was absolutely clear.
Oh wow.
And sometimes, and sometimes it would take like 5 minutes or something. So I'd have to, so water, then once we were about to cook, they would make me wash it, make it all clear. The water is 100% clear, and then we would finally cook it.
I'm gonna steal
And I
this
never
tip.
understood. I just thought, okay, that's what they do, Yeah, it's pretty interesting. The mashed potatoes. So how do you eat your mashed potatoes?
Yeah, so I basically peel off the skins because the anti-nutrients are in the skins, a lot of them, and the seeds. That's where like plants store most of the anti-nutrients. And then I boil them, like really like boil them until they're really like mushy.
Okay.
And then I use raw butter and raw milk.
Okay.
So just like, and I really mash it hard, and I just break it down so it's just like really, it's almost like it's just really smooth,
Yeah.
And then if I eat that, it's like night and day. From me eating like a baked potato to me eating that, it just feels like it's not as heavy at all. So at the moment, I'm really a fan of like having like a steak with like some mashed potato on the side, with lots of raw butter. Like the more like I feel like plant foods. There was like a really funny Weston A. Price video where like they were saying like plant foods is just like another excuse to put more like fats on top of them. Like just put more butter on the side. Just put them like slob it on the plants.
Yeah, that makes sense. My husband loves potatoes, and so I buy the groceries, so I just never bring it in the house, but
Yeah.
I should try that. I should just make mashed potatoes because it makes a lot of sense what you're saying. I
Yeah.
mean, my parents, when we were sick, they would give us porridge. So, yeah, I think it makes a lot of sense. And porridge in terms of white, not oatmeal.
Yeah.
Like white, made out of rice. So, that's really interesting. Okay, so now, we already talked about that. Okay, sorry. Let's see. Okay, so I know you've already talked about the 4 steps to healing your gut. Is there any other tips that you have to, just heal your gut, heal emotional like anxiety, panic attacks? When you feel that impending doom, there's like nothing that someone can do to help you. What are some tips that you can just provide for people?
So in the moment, do you mean, or do you mean like right in the moment when they're having a panic attack, or do you mean in general?
It could be both. So maybe like
Yeah.
moments, tips and tricks for in that moment, impending doom, and then also just overall, like, how do what can you do to really help heal yourself and thrive?
So I think it's like quite the holistic approach really helps. So instead of just targeting diet, like I always recommend like just try the carnivore diet because it like helps so many with the anxiety because meat's being so demonized. I feel like everyone's deficient in red meat, specifically red meat, because it's just everyone's been told to stay away from that. Then I recommend the sleep. It's really important. Like with like right now, I should be wearing my blue blocking glasses to just because it's nighttime here now.
Yeah.
And it'll just there's your circadian rhythms is really important for me because basically your body is really only healing during sleep. That's the main time it heals. So like if our body is not having quality sleep, then like how is that we going to heal anxiety? Like our bodies. So that's another thing I mentioned, the whole light thing, like wearing a blue blocking glasses, get a good brand, don't buy a cheap one. It's the sleep really matters a lot. And then in general, getting sunlight won't be as much of a problem for you guys because of the sun's like so it's really hot. But in the UK, especially in winter, I think like I don't know, you just need to like people don't realize this, but you can get vitamin D from animal foods. You can get them from like the animal fats. Like so in winter, in the Scandinavian countries, they ate lots of animal fat.
Okay.
I think it's because they're trying to get the vitamin D, like from the cod liver oil, from the the animal fat, the butters. They were trying to get those vitamin D so they wouldn't be so depressed.
Yeah, that makes sense. Every time I've been to London several times, and I think there was only one time there was sun. It's always there's always it's always a cloudy
cold,
day.
Yeah, it was pretty good this summer, but it goes when it turns autumn, it just shuts off. Like the sun just goes.
It's an amazing city. I love it.
And you go on.
Oh no. So what about like in the moment doom?
So in a moment, I really just I take walks. I like for some reason it always helps when I speak to my parents. Just it's just like a thing that helps.
Oh
But
yeah.
I don't
Yeah,
really have any
community is
like.
so important. Community is
Mhm.
so important to have you
Yeah,
feel understood and that it's normalizing what you're going through.
yeah.
That can relieve a lot of stress.
hmm
Absolutely.
But I remember like it is really crazy. Like when my panic attacks were at their peak, I would
Hmm.
literally be doing like nothing. I was literally like walking around. I remember I went to Birmingham once. I was just like walking around the city and I just got this panicky feeling like something's wrong. I couldn't get on the train to go back to
Oh,
London.
okay.
So I had to like go outside the station and just walk around. And I was just like I couldn't stop panicking. And I was just like for no reason at all. But it was definitely because of my diet for me. So and
Yeah.
in those moments, the best thing I could do was really just walk. For some reason walking just really helped.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've been into therapy for disordered eating, and so they had a lot of outside activities. They had a lot of interesting ones that give you insight into life and just having better tools to then not focus on food to deal with your emotions and anxiety. And so
hmm
one thing they would always have us do is there was like a park by us, and so we would always go around the park, have some walk, get in some sun, nature, and just
hmm
take in some fresh air, and then even have conversations with someone or not have conversations, right?
mm
And everybody that would go, even if people were depressed, were in the mood of like, don't talk to me, don't mess with me right now,
Yeah.
after they would go, everyone, you noticeably could tell people were a lot more relaxed, a lot more happier. And so I think there is something to walking. I know it releases some endorphins, so that may be why too. But it might also be that you're focusing on other things, and so you're not just like in the moment, just with the anxiety, right? So
hmm
it
Yeah,
it
that's
might
another
just be.
one you mentioned about talking to people. Like when I talk to someone, when I used to have panic attacks, it would just take my mind off the anxiety, right? So that helps a lot. Yeah, it's a
Yeah,
good one.
and it's finding the right people though. Sometimes
Yeah.
yeah, they could
Don't panic.
there's
Stop panicking. It like makes it worse.
yeah,
When they
like,
say,
dude, get over it, right?
yeah. Like, come on.
Yeah.
Like, everything's great. Yeah.
Yeah. And any other recommendations or guidance for healing the gut? Anything else that
hmm
you think are like nuggets of wisdom that would the people that are watching would appreciate?
hmm Um, let me think. There definitely is one, but I'm trying to think of it on the spot that I haven't really talked about. I'd say just the steps I talked about, like you need like a mix between like don't just focus on one. Don't just focus on like resting the gut. The carnivore diet is great, but for some people they need like some more. And like some people need some like probiotics. Don't just eat like steak and think everything's gonna become better. You need
Yeah, I
like a
agree.
mix
I
of
think
probiotics and
I
stuff.
absolutely agree. I think some people can just eat meat and it'll be fine, and then some people actually need the support. I
hmm
think it's like, yeah. And I think your other lifestyle factors are very important too. I think sleep, right? Like you said, it's when you heal. And so that's why for my kids, whenever they're sick, I'm always like, you guys need to go to bed because that's the only way you're going to get over this. And then you can go outside
Yeah.
and play, right? And then also stress, right? So if you have too much stress in your body, stress
hmm
will make you sick. I mean, it
100%. Yeah.
eats up cortisol. It makes your digestion much harder, right? Because you're never going to be in a
hmm
parasympathetic state.
Yeah.
You guys need to rest and relax to digest your food properly. So yeah, I completely believe, and that's why I'm all about holistic health, not just you can just eat meat and
Yeah. Yeah.
you're
Yeah.
good to go, right? No, like you need
hmm
to work on the other factors, but we can focus on meat first, right? Focus on one component
hmm
and then start like having the rest of your life improve as well.
Yeah, I think I saw
One,
this study about like how literally someone who got really stressed, they had like someone surprised them or like it was some trauma or something, and they did a study where it showed they couldn't like digest food properly for like 48 hours.
yeah,
So
that makes
imagine
sense.
that like happening to people in real life, like, and then they're eating this massive like burger with like some really processed grains, and imagine how much they just probably wrecks their digestive system as well.
Yeah, I mean, when people are really, really stressed, I mean, they get ulcers, right, in the stomach.
hmm
And if they're really stressed, then a lot of them turn to alcohol, which is not beneficial, or they eat a lot of food, bad
Yeah.
processed foods that are like really greasy, but with
hmm
bad oils, and then with like a
Yeah.
burger, they'll just eat not the best foods, and then it'll
Yeah.
just exacerbate the gut already not being in a good condition, and then I think it just worsens the ulcers and then all the other symptoms that They'll probably take medication for ulcers, which will even worsen the gut, right?
Yeah. It'll deal with one symptom, then something else will go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But so as we're about to close, thank you for coming on. But what would you say is your favorite quote, or one of your favorite quotes, and why?
Probably just that quote. It's like kind of a stoic quote that before you heal someone, ask him if he's willing to give up the habits that made him sick. This
That's
one,
so
I
funny.
guess.
That's I just added that to my book. But yeah, I love that quote. I
Did
think
that
it's
as
so
well. Yeah,
true.
it's the best. It's just true, isn't it? There's another like quote. I think Wesley Price even said it, or someone, and it was like, if you don't like follow the rules of nature, then you'll get sick. And I feel like that's a really big important. Like right now, that's really important because we're in this like modern world where we're going further and further away from what our bodies need. Like, we're always around blue light. We're being like meat is like a natural food for us, and we're being told to stay away from it. I feel
I
like right
know.
now, it's really important.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And educating the misinformation and correcting it, I think is so important.
Yeah.
And we just need to have us go back to the way our great grandparents ate. I think it's just we didn't snack as much. We didn't eat all these like nuts and these like
Yeah.
I don't know, those fruit and nut bars and all these snacks that are these pouches
Yeah.
of food that I mean we never, our great grandparents didn't have it. And so I mean maybe there's something to it, and we shouldn't be eating that ourselves, and we should go back to whole foods, even if it takes more time, even if it's the
Yeah.
food doesn't last forever. But I mean, you're going to pay for it in the long term if you don't.
Yeah, totally. I agree with that. Yeah.
Okay, so where can people find you, and what are you up to next? I mean, if anything you want to share with the people watching.
Yeah. So right now it's just Instagram, Ancestral Health Guy. But I'm making a guide actually about how to heal anxiety.
Oh,
So it's like a
perfect.
little like kind of online guide. So if anyone wants to know like really in detail, like I mention all the causes of anxiety and how to heal them in like detail, not just like an Instagram post, then like yeah, the guide will be good for you. I
Oh,
think it'll be
that's
perfect.
awesome.
Yeah.
Once you have it, I'll definitely share it in the notes as well. And then everything we've
Yeah.
talked about, I'll share some information in the notes too. Well, thank you very much for your time. This has been awesome.
Yeah,
I
thanks
love
so
your
much.
infographics. I love your infographics,
Thank
and I
you.
love sharing it. And I make my own too. So like I completely understand the level of effort and the time it takes. So I appreciate everything you do, and you're bringing so much wisdom and support and help for the people that are following you, and a lot of
Yeah.
people. So thank you very much.
Oh, thanks so much. Thanks for inviting me on the show.
Okay. Well, I will talk to you soon. Thank you.
Yeah, talk to you soon. See ya. Bye, Judy.
Okay. Bye-bye.
See you later.
I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you guys are really interested in different types of probiotics, I have a video that I released last week about spore probiotics. Basically, the spore probiotic is different than traditional probiotics because it bypasses all the harsh gastric enzymes and digestion, and so it survives until it gets down to the GI tract. Definitely take a look at that and watch that video. I'll also link to it in my notes. All right, guys, well, take care of yourselves. Make sure to eat a lot of meat. Make sure to get some organ meat, some bone broth, and make sure to take care of your body because it is the only place you have to live. All right, until next time, talk to you guys soon. Bye.